You just got done watching Game of Thrones, which means you've got a week until another episode. What are you going to watch? Well, there's all sorts of stuff to watch on Crunchyroll.com/TYT. Over 25,000 episodes of awesome anime chosen by anime fans for anime fans. You sign up there for a free 30-day trial. You get all the episodes in HD with no advertisements and with subtitles. And you can watch them on your computer and on the go on your tablet or on your cell phone. It'll be awesome and it'll help to fill the time until you get more Daenerys and Arya in your life. Head to Crunchyroll.com/TYT and sign up today.
All men must die, but not all can die in glory.
Give the order, and we'll clear out this rabble.
What would you say if I told you of a great sinner in our very midst?
May the Father judge him justly.
Hey guys, what the flick? The episode is over. Sons of the Harpy, episode 4, season 5, Game of Thrones. Cenk, Jon, Matt, and Ben. There was some violence in this episode.
There's a little bit of violence.
Yeah. First of all, are Barristan, Selmy, and Grey Worm dead? You guys probably know the answer to this question, so
Not necessarily.
Right, because things have changed. But they generally in TV, unless you know that people are dead, they aren't dead.
Yeah, okay, so let's summarize. If it was a regular TV show, they're both alive, right?
Right.
If Game of Thrones is half normal, whatever, and then Varys Selmy's dead, and Grey Worm is alive. Okay, it's Game of Thrones. Anybody's guess.
So here's who I think's dead. I don't know about Grey Worm. He's less important.
We saw him get stabbed basically like right here, which is normally where, outside of Gladiator, if you get stabbed there, you're not going to die. In Gladiator, that is where he died.
Right, that's
why he died.
But he's less important than Selmy because of exactly how this episode opened, which was with Jorah and Tyrion. Yeah. Because if Selmy is dead, then Jorah is back in. You need an old white guy with a beard
right.
to advise you. Oh. Otherwise, you got no chance at a power play.
If Jorah heard you call him an old white guy with a beard, he would feel like he got stabbed right
Totally. Because he still thinks that he
punch you.
Yeah. But the other thing is, Selmy's got that whole story early on about him out collecting the money when Rhaegar was singing, and it was this whole okay, looks like Barristan's going to be this great advisor to Daenerys, and not anymore.
And also we heard how he was in the previous episode that he was relevant to how the war started. With he was riding with Rhaegar the last when they were at High Tower.
Oh, that was at the jousting
Hair
Harrenhal.
Garden.
Yeah.
Hair Garden.
The reason that I think that it's unlikely that Barristan at the very least died. Like Grey Worm, he has what could be his great last moment of combat skill. That's totally possible. He does get stabbed in a place that typically in TV means you're not going to die. Barristan gets slashed across the legs, and it looks like he was stabbed in the chest, but then is saved as he's about to have his throat slit.
That's what's confusing.
So if you're saved, then why still die?
Why still? Except to maybe
weird.
Show that they had it was the bonding, they had come together. These two great warriors. I don't.
Maybe
it could go. I feel like it could go either way.
At the risk of sound, admittedly having read the books, but we're off book in a lot of other cases.
In a lot of ways.
What I will say is, in this show, I'm of the belief that unless you see someone's head separated from their body,
they're alive,
or you see them face turn blue, or whatever. They may be back.
Marine, by the way, I mean, there may be some issues happening in Marine, but Marine is known for advanced medical care.
Exactly.
So,
And whores you can't trust.
Yeah, totally.
I am not often disappointed with the show, but I was disappointed with one part of that. Barristan Selmy is supposed to be one of the greatest warriors of all time. In the books, there's a different fight scene that is described as him being amazing. And I don't know what it is about the way they shot it. I understand the actor's very old, but they shot it from very far away. Grey Worm's, all of his moves are super close up. They're Jason Bourne style. But Barristan, it's far away. It's very Alec Guinness in the original Star Wars. It's he doesn't really look like a badass. He's killing people, but I feel like that was one of the worst shot. I felt it was unimpressive.
I did think there were a couple of moments in that were a little kung fu-esque, where a couple of the Sons of the Harpy would just, definitely the one-time thing, but I guess I'm totally inured to that. One guy just seemed to run with no weapon. Like to just be like, okay, now slash me in the gut and I'll follow. You know, like I don't even have a sword. Come on, I'm gonna, you know. So
I don't have a weapon, but I'm excited.
But that said, we were all. That said, it was still
that was a good scene.
It was still dramatic. So
especially once you realize it's Grey Worm, because the guy was fighting like Grey Worm would, and then it gets taken off.
Cenk yelled when the thing, you know, you were like, no.
Right. I mean, Grey Worm's awesome.
So if there was two guys you didn't want to corner in tight quarters, that was probably those two, right?
Yeah.
And so they picked the wrong two guys to try to fight in
And there's like
limited
20 other
space.
guys in that hall. Like, they don't go down easy.
And how about it was a big slap in the face to Eric Bana. Because, you know, he'd been like criticizing the Unsullied as like, our guys, they blend in, we drink beer, the Second Sons, they drink beer, we whore around, but we're always ready to fight. No, you weren't.
Nope.
You were not ready to fight.
You got slaughtered.
Yeah, you were
with your
drinking
horse.
beer and you were hanging around with the prostitutes.
Yeah.
Your weapons were down and you're all dead.
Yeah. I mean, at least the Unsullied took out a
The
bunch
Unsullied,
of Harpies.
the Unsullied were led. I mean, the Unsullied fought incredibly bravely and killed
in
a bunch
an
of them.
ambush.
Right, in an
Still,
ambush.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, it should be renamed the Sons of Harpy. Why are all the whores on the side of the Harpy? Like, don't trust the whores in Marine. I mean, how many times do I have to tell
Probably
you?
threaten their lives, I would imagine.
Hey, so
No, she was with them. You know, she
No,
was,
yeah.
No, she was like wiping off the blood. Like, you know, she was disgusted by the Second Son.
yeah. So
Disappointed in the horse.
final word for me on what I think is going to happen. I think Barristan Selmy is going to die because of all the stories of yesteryear. Like, that was like the last glory of Barristan Selmy, and she departs that, and he departs that, and he says that. And then as I saw him marching in, and I knew he was going to fight, I already wrote him off as
Yeah,
dead.
I agree. And
Right.
But she needs him so much.
But that's the
she's-
other reason.
But she's got Jorah. He's going to come
That's
back.
the other reason.
Right.
But Jorah can't, like, remember a couple of episodes ago they had a talk about what the Targaryen kings tend to be like and how they can go crazy, and she backed off because of his advice.
now she knows
Jorah's an advisor, but he's not that sort of advisor, I don't think. He's more of like a
I don't think
hand.
Jorah's a very good advisor.
You hate
Oh,
Jorah. You're a.
I actually think Barristan Selmy is not that good an advisor. I think he thinks of everything in the old ways, right? That don't necessarily apply to the new ways. I actually think Jorah has a good balance. I trust him more than Barristan Selmy.
And here's what Barristan Selmy might be able to do: is live a little. Like, you know, because we didn't see him die, so he may be mortally wounded. He may stick around for a couple days, and maybe that's when Jorah shows up. And he might say to her, keep him around.
And I know it's Game of Thrones, but I actually think that Grey Worm is much more important than the old dude Barristan Selmy. And so when I saw that it was Grey Worm, I had the reaction of like, oh my God, no. And then I was like, maybe I'm after all this time, I'm still foolish, but I thought, no, they're not going to let Grey Worm die.
We didn't have a last scene between Missandei and Grey Worm,
Right.
which could be significant. If they had had sort of a tearful, like they kissed or something like that, then maybe he's dead.
Right. I mean, Grey Worm could
I think
die
the
at
last
some
thing he
point,
said to him was
but
pretty
not
romantic.
at this point.
I think he said, I have to go. As I recall. Yeah.
We like snuggling prostitutes. I gotta go.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so anyway, a lot of other things happen in that episode.
Yeah.
I liked her line, real quick, Daenerys' line. Everybody has a Y in their name.
There's a lot of them.
A lot of Ys. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't read the books, but they're like, as I was writing notes, and I realized how many names you can at least spell with a Y. I'm sure I'm spelling them all wrong. But her line when she's looking down at Marine, and she, you know, that I don't remember her exact line, but just the idea of when you're up here, up high, everything looks fine.
It looks peaceful from
Right,
here.
and that was a relevant line to leaders all over the world. That you look down, and you're like, I don't understand what the problem is. It looks great.
Everything's not on fire.
Yeah,
I don't see a single Harpy.
Okay, so let's then go to last week we talked about Cersei, and now we know that, I mean, the degree to which Marjorie's little you drink too much wine. Oh. Like Cersei has responded. Cersei's gone over the top.
It's like Real Housewives on one side and Uday Hussein on the other side.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's a good comparison.
Yeah, so why do we think she brought these guys in? I mean, I thought immediately that as soon as she started saying, oh, there's someone who has moral issues in the capital, I thought she was going after the brother. I said it as we were watching it, right? He's going after Loras, and then he did. And I think, you know, it's a pawn. Well, is it petty? I mean, look, I think in one way, maybe it's a pawn to have in her back pocket. It's kind of keeping him hostage, right?
Right.
In a sense, and I think that's pretty powerful, right? But and it establishes a power base, independent power base, so she's not solely dependent on her son, who she's losing.
To the extent that she can control them.
Right. And that goes to Matt's point from forever, which is that, yes, she might be able to start that fire. She can't necessarily put that fire out.
Yeah, those guys aren't, I mean, they're great. They had some chains, they had some whips, they had some knives.
They carved
if
a
Tommen
symbol
turns
for it.
the King's Guard loose, I don't think that fight, I don't think it's a fight those guys. The Faith Militant, but that's a great name, by the way. Credit to
Faith
Militant.
the Faith Militant.
Yeah.
It's because it's instantly scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, and the symbols on their heads now. That's.
Oh, yeah,
You don't want to be like. I'd rather be with the Sons of the Harpy than with those guys. I think.
I think the Sons of the Harpy. They've created two this season. Bang, two very scary, villainous, marauding, independent armies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sons of Harpy I wouldn't buy as much, except the mass.
No, it's totally
scare
masks.
everyone.
The masks scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, they're just like.
It's
commas,
very
I guess.
Carcosa-y.
It just like I get that she wants some other force she can sort of wield in some way, but it seems like if you're Cersei, letting loose an army who's enforcing laws against sexual perversion might not be the best
that's a
road
good
to
point.
walk down, considering her past.
Well, and see, that's the thing is when the king, trying to get Loras out, brings his Kingsguard up to the steps of the Sept, and the guys are like, "Oh yeah, we're not going to let you in." The Sparrow's praying, and then you hear the crowd of followers who are following the High Sparrow.
So maybe,
like,
yeah.
They're, you hear these guys like abomination.
Yeah. I mean, and they
I like
could
it
have
how
just
the
wiped them out.
bastard-
What I
They
like
could've
it.
wiped them out.
What I like it is it's not like that wasn't audio of what that sounds like. It sounded like people actually doing that. But very,
If he had wiped them out, I wonder how poorly that would have been received, though. I mean, they're taking out brothels, which you don't want to take out the brothels. Poor people don't have a lot of pleasures in their life. And faith can be sort of appealing to the poor, obviously, like that guy's feeding some of them and all that. But that sort of extremist organization, I don't know how much support they'd actually have. Like, I feel like if he had wiped out a bunch of them, that might be seen as a popular move.
HAMAS, Hamas. Like that's literally what they've
You
done.
think
Well, I
that's
mean,
what it
they run schools, they educate people, they feed people, they do things that the Palestinian Authority didn't do, and then they won an election.
Yeah, they don't carve
much to
weird
our-
satanic
much to-
symbols on their head.
No, right, but those guys, but but they're militant, right? But so you
Those
saw
aren't
there from
satanic
Jonathan
symbols.
Price, right?
That's the equivalent of those guys carving crosses.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be the 7.
Also,
I
it's
get it,
super,
just looks crazy.
super Nazi-esque too.
Oh, you're gonna regret that when you turn 30, man.
You know, in the midst of all that, I got this weird question in my head. Oh my God, is it possible that George R.R. Martin is going to pull a Lost? Like this, are we ever going to resolve which God is the true God? Everybody's got a different God, right? So like, the light of the...
It doesn't matter.
The Lord of Light. Well, I mean, to me it does. Lord of the Light, you got the black and white guy saying the 7 gods, who's actually one true God.
The drowned god.
Right.
Well, here's the thing: does it matter within the confines of this story? Does it matter which God may be the true God? Because I think this is a story of succession, and ultimately, as much as yes, there's dragons and there's some magic, the more interesting and the more telling parts of the story are the people involved. And so, what religion they follow, it kind of doesn't.
No.
It matters to Stannis.
It matters in the sense of what it what goes into their decision-making process. But you could argue that that Rhaegar, the god that Melisandre is following, has as much power as the white trees have, that the faces, that the old
Weirwood
gods
trees,
have,
yeah.
that the weirwood trees have. We don't see much out of the 7, but that doesn't mean that power is not awakening. I think there's all different types of magic that's awakening that people are attributing to gods because the dragons are back.
Maybe.
So I hear you. I don't want anybody to get confused. I'm not going to pray to the winning god of Westeros, right? So my
Maybe
point
you
is
should.
that it matters as a plot point, that he's, and I'm using it even more symbolically, like, is this all going to make sense at the end? Like, it turns out these guys won and they won because of X, Y, and Z, and here's how the gods interplayed with that, and here's how it rolled. But there was so many gods, so many things going on now that I'm like, wait, he's keeping track of all this, right?
Man, I do not find this conversation
is.
interesting, mostly because I just don't think it matters. It's not a question I care to
here's the
have
thing.
answered or make any difference. I mean, none of them are real. None of them are right. I think that's probably what George R.R. Martin thinks, who I suspect is I bet a pretty aggressive secularist. I don't know, but
well, I think we want to know if the priests, Tyrion sees the woman before he gets kidnapped, and she looks at him with that very significant look. Like, does that mean anything? Can we attribute that to anything other than she's looking at him? Like, if the gods have power, then maybe it means something. Maybe she does have powers.
To your point, it will be extremely disappointing if some faction wins because they've got the power of a god.
Yeah, that would bum me out.
That would be really disappointing.
No, I just want
epic.
I just want an explanation. So what I don't want is, okay, the Lord of Light had all these amazing powers, including resurrection, right? How many times he brought that one guy back?
That's
remember
true.
that fought the Hound or whatever, whoever he fought, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want that not explained. I want it so that he's like, well, look, okay, here's how all that works. And yes, our Lord of Light clearly has extraordinary power, but that doesn't mean he's God, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's the end-all, be-all, that he's correct, right? So I want some sort of wrap-up of that, because otherwise then I feel like we're just playing games here.
We want somebody who actually understands magic to talk about magic.
Yeah.
But so far we haven't really had
just
that.
logically and internally consistent. That's
I just like
want.
what Jaqen Hagar says. There is only one God, and you know his name.
Yeah, but I mean, can't there be a bunch of gods? And can't they? I mean, they all have and their power is they have some specific power. They're clearly not as powerful as their followers think they are. Otherwise, they exercise it, right? One of them would just win. It would just be a tournament, and there'd be a winner left at the end. Like the execution of that power by their mortal armies and mortal followers is what's relevant.
One thing, though, that we have seen a power of someone who follows like a god is we had the scene between Melisandre and Jon where she tries to seduce him and reveals that once again she is actually one of the most beautiful women in the realm. And she's sitting on his lap and she's talking about, we have this ability to make light and also the ability to cast shadows, which is reminiscent of the conversation she had with Davos in the tunnels beneath the castle before she made the smoke monster. So if he had sex with her, was it to produce one of those shadows? Was that the goal, I wonder? She's talking the same language both sides.
That's interesting.
Maybe she's looking for someone to, as she had originally asked, go and lead them and tell them the secrets of...
Because she's a little disappointed in Stannis.
Of Winterfell.
Isn't she?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't get that sense. But
she criticized him in this episode, saying, "You didn't send me.
You didn't send me.
Davos.
Like you went without Davos." And she's like, "You're going to Winterfell, right? Like, what's happening?"
Okay, those are good points.
Yeah.
What sent a chill down my spine is that we're just talking about. I hope this isn't lost, and then I realized there's a smoke monster in both of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
It's interesting you say that because Lost Ending was
bear?
at 10, and it's one of your great weaknesses in life that you don't see that.
I've
in.
never watched Lost.
You would like Lost. I mean, with you and talking about the realm as if it's a real place, you would
And your elves.
So when Melisandre went in there, I thought, we just heard two other people make the same exact speech. I'm like, what do you got? Like about, hey,
I have these.
Right, and then and then she went to the oldest trick in the book.
Right,
It's like, I got tits. Right, you want to feel
worked.
them? There you go, withholding the JJ, oldest trick in the book.
I think it'll work.
And it almost worked, right? I was like,
saw-
no, John, come on.
We saw
They
from
are
two
great.
characters this week. So I guess one was last week, but in back-to-back weeks, we saw two flawed but basically noble, just men not go through with sex because they are in love with their dead girlfriends.
Yes.
Oh, great connection. Nice job, Mankiewicz. Okay.
Poor
That was a
Tyrion.
shocking moment
He's
from
not the
Tyrion.
man.
It was a shocking moment from Tyrion. Yeah.
Again, I have to confess to not being shocked. I didn't think he'd have sex with her from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because he's tormented.
All right, but that's the last episode. That's not this episode.
No, it's not the last.
that's
but it
the
was.
last
But I don't think we didn't talk about it
we
though.
didn't talk
But like, yes, but it was. It wasn't shocking in the moment, but it's shocking overall.
Yeah.
Right. It's
He
big
didn't give up
picture.
the drinking, but he did give up one of his other loves.
For now.
For now.
For now, yeah. But to see, but not surprising at all that Jon Snow said it, and then it did lead to she gets to have the great line of, you know nothing, Jon Snow.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
What is this?
Oh, the smirk.
And I like that thing you do with your tongue. Right.
So
yet,
what does
yet
that
another
mean?
Lord of the
What
Light.
does it mean?
You know, another Lord of the Light trick, right? So I mean, the Lord of the Light is pretty fucking powerful, man. I mean, that might
So I think what she's like is like, you still think that this is about, you know, it's one thing that Melisandre and I would agree on is like, shut up about your freaking vows. Like you're you're talking because they're dumb. They're dumb, and he's going to break them anyway at some point. Or
he did. He slept with Uygur.
Right, but again, as we talked about, that's not the most important of the vows, right? Right? They don't. Everybody knows he broke it. Nobody's trying to cut his head off. They don't really care. And she was not just a girl in town; she was a wildling. But like, you know nothing, Jon Snow presumably means you're talking about the wall. Blah, 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 blah. Like there's real power here that I can give you, and you're talking about these dumb vows and your 50 guys and getting it up to 110 guys
from the Boltons,
right?
maybe.
From the like, what are you doing? And I have real power. So he's been
and even
offered.
if I don't, I've got this.
He's right. So he's offered her real power. She's mystical. We think is real. It seems like it's real.
She made a smoke monster.
And then he also turned down, you know, the power of leading an army back and ruling the North and getting his name. Like he's consistently passing up on opportunities for these dumb vows.
Yeah, you know, she did screw up one thing as a matter of strategy. Right when he was close, and he's feeling the boob, and he's got it in his hand, and he can't let it go, and then he says no. If she'd busted out the "you know nothing, Jon Snow" line, then you'd be like, oh my God, it's Ygritte, I'm on it. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I think he'd have pushed her away even faster.
Oh wait, she said that. I didn't even get that. That's what Ygritte said.
Yeah,
That's what Ygritte
that
used
was
to
the
say
whole
all the
point.
time.
That's why.
I missed everything.
Have you seen this show?
It's still
before?
a great line.
Yeah, that was a great line.
So what do we think that means? That she knows?
She knows.
She knows something.
everything.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I don't know,
And she
knows
knew already that he was a guy who likes redheads with nice tits. I thought for a second she was going to go with Ygritte's other line. I like you because of that thing you do with your tongue.
With your tongue. Yeah. Well, okay, I missed that. So we got then we got Jaime and Bronn in. Bronn is again like hire Bronn. Like great fighting, always wins, always bails you out. Just knows everything with that great line of, "Oh, your niece." Huh? Oh, is it? That's where we're going. We're going to get into.
I love that there's been like these 3 different like buddy road show, like these buddy road movies, right? There's the Tyrion and Varys show. There's the Brienne and Pod show, and then there's this one which we're on, which is the Jaime and Bronn show.
Yeah, totally. Right. And the very brief, short-lived, just a pilot, Barristan, Selmy, and Grey Worm. But it may not be picked up for.
I'm not sure it was a comedy duo as they're gurgling blood next to one another.
They jumped a shark, or maybe a dolphin.
But probably the best one out of all these season five seasons is when Tyrion and Bronn were put together. That was
they were great. Yeah, that's right.
They were a good
comedy
combo.
duo, right?
But Bronn can work, it turns out, with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaime figured out he now has a superpower. He has a shield built into his hand.
That was a great moment. Like, oh shit!
And I love the little moment where like
He couldn't.
he
It
can't
was
get
stuck.
it out.
It was stuck. It was buried in the gold.
Oh, that's a good trick.
Again, I was kind of expecting that because the one advantage of the golden hand is that you can block things with it.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to catch the sword.
So there's the funny moment where he's like, "Oh, your niece," but then later when she said, "You know, how do you want to die?" He says, "I want to die with in the arms of the woman I love." And then he's like, he also he's observant. He's like, "You sure that's what she wants?" Like he's being an actual friend there in that moment, and they are friends, and it's so we like that relationship.
Bronn is the ultimate friends with bounds. Like I got my bounds. I'm not gonna die for you.
Right.
Yeah. Like, will you be my champion against a mountain? No, I'll take a pass.
Not so much.
I'll take a castle instead.
Against that knight in the Eyrie, sure. Mountain, no, not so much.
And, right. That was another great line, right? Because you're never gonna make this up. Like you can't. Like what are you gonna? Yeah.
Right.
And he would have lost. But also that then almost immediately led into the scene with the sand snakes, though, which I thought was an interesting scene.
You must choose Doran's way and peace, or my way and war.
I made my choice long ago.
Peace. Oh yeah. So why did they? That guy was selling them information, the ship's captain, which is what again Bronn was like, I wouldn't trust that guy.
Right.
I don't think you appreciate how much people hate your family. But why did they torture that guy? Like he was, they're just...
Because they're cutthroats.
They're cutthroats.
They're pirates, basically.
Yeah. And
No,
also,
they're not pirates. They're.
I mean, but they
killers.
right, but they exhibit pirate behavior. They don't loot for bounty.
Yeah.
They just
Right.
they
No,
just
the idea is to show, I think, just how badass they are.
yeah.
But
and
I-
also, there's value to them being the only ones who have that information
yeah.
that they don't want other people to know.
Oh, that's
because
a
they're
good point.
planning something
Yeah.
huge.
So they theoretically just those three the three daughters of Oberon buried that guy up to his shoulders.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And
They're
They
not
look tough.
They're not literally his daughters, right?
Yes,
Because-
they're
think there's
Oberyn's daughters.
bastard
they're Oberon's daughters,
daughters.
but they're from different women.
Right. It's Obara and Nymeria and the third one.
Betsy,
all their
I
last
think.
names are Sand,
Yeah.
which is the bastard name.
Oh,
that-
Sand Snow, I
right.
got it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and they're
Stone.
Sand Snakes because he was the Red Viper.
Yeah. We know at least one of them seems skilled with at least a short spear.
Yeah. I mean, the guy couldn't move. You know.
That was still a good throw.
It
I
was a
couldn't
good
have
throw,
done
but
that.
I think it's weird that we didn't see it. Like in all the things, the gruesome things we've seen, we got a spear hitting the guy from behind. We didn't even see any blood.
Well, it went through the back. I mean, you still see something.
I guess it just seemed like.
Seemed like with the
You're a sick
scorpions,
man.
he was already kind of a goner.
Yeah,
So
I don't
it was
think
a
so. Yeah.
bit of a
It
gratuitous.
was. I mean, it was again. It was a little Jon Snowish. Like I'm actually doing you a bit of a favor here.
Yeah, I guess that's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's potentially setting up an absolutely massive change in the plot. Like if they do start a war between Dorne.
Oh, that's not in the
rest.
books.
No, I'm saying that's a huge thing.
Oh, it's a huge
Like,
thing. Yeah. So they wanna start the war, because they figure that's how to avenge Oberyn. But
And not just Oberyn, Elia as well.
Yeah.
right,
And
the
kid.
sister, right, who Oberyn theoretically wanted to avenge
Yeah, it's
also.
just a chain of avenging.
And then also, but then and it might be what Cersei wants. Like maybe that actually, they both might get the same thing out of that. I don't know.
So, by the way, Dorne is not part of the Seven Kingdoms, right?
It is, but
It
it's
is.
like,
It's relatively more independent.
Yeah.
It's the only one that wasn't conquered. They went into basically like an alliance with them, but they're not.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
all
pay
right.
taxes.
Okay, all right.
I think that she's only one of their mothers, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's some
Obara,
other.
right?
No,
Obara-
clearly the one who throws the spear, clearly, because she kept talking about her mother, and
Right.
so it wasn't. But she's still loyal to.
Yes. The extended family.
Right.
The adopted family, I guess.
So do we think that Cersei wants a war, or is this just about a power play with Marjorie?
I think it's no. I don't think she wants a war. I think it's a power play with Marjorie. I think I'm going to give you credit and discredit at the same time. I think she wants her daughter back in the Dorne situation, and that's
Because she loves her so much.
Because she loves her
Spare me.
kids. Because she loves her kids. So, but now, to Ben's credit, wait now, you started this whole goddamn with the militant faith dudes, but they're going to start a rebellion against your own son. I mean, and you're power playing against your own son. So how much do you love your son? I think Ben scores
Like
some points there.
she needs to. It might even be too late. Like now, again, to Matt's point last week, how much has she overplayed her hand? How much does she really know what she's doing here? She had this great idea. See this guy, I can use these guys. Well, she knows her history. She knows that the power the faith militant had 2 centuries ago during a different dynasty. But now she turns these guys loose. They remind me, you mentioned, they're like there's a brown shirt quality to them, like of Hitler's brown shirts. And also to some extent, Hoover's early FBI agents too. Like sort of these marauding crusaders for justice who think they're, like Hoover in the name of the Bible and their crazy, dumb interpretation of their religious text.
It seems to me like there's the Lannister who's amongst them. He seems devout, driven by his faith. But the rest of them just gave off this smarmy, like, I want to abuse people. I want to go into a whorehouse and throw people around and break stuff.
I wouldn't mistake the Lannister guy either. He likes that too. They like it. They get off on it. That's what thrills them.
It's the actor who's the queen bee of that group. It's a bit of a weird choice because he's so calm.
Yeah.
I don't get
Jonathan Pryce?
I don't get a sinister
Jonathan
feel
Pryce
from him
makes a
at
good
all.
villain, though. Like, he does
He
that.
was a Bond villain.
He was a Bond villain.
Yeah,
He's in Ronin.
not
like,
buying it.
He
plays
sold
this-
Acurus though too. For
Well,
it,
he
wasn't
did.
Yeah.
He also
He's-
might not
no,
be a
Infinities.
villain in the typical
Infinities.
sense.
Infinities. But he's good that way because I think that makes him scarier because he's going to play, the High Sparrow is somebody who's very devout, and that level of just kind of fanaticism that somebody really believes what they're doing, like I think that makes it even scarier. He'll play that calm for a long time, and as you said,
like
Jonathan Pryce isn't in this for 1 or 2 scenes.
we think he see what you're getting at. I think in part is that he seems reasonable, and he clearly isn't reasonable in any way. So, but I think that's interesting. That they for a change, like we haven't been able to quickly. Even that first scene, he really, unlike sort of fake religious leaders, he was tending to a flock that needed tending to.
Very Mother
He gave up his shoes. He was feeding them, and then at that moment when Cersei says, what if you heard about this terrible, corrupt, evil person? He just goes, well, I hope he'd be judged by his father when the time comes. But what he means is, I'll get to him first. So they killed the gay guys, right, in Baelish's house. Boy, that name Baelish turns out not to mean a lot.
Yeah, he got hit in the face twice so far this season for daring to mention the name.
Yeah, this is Peter Baelish's place. Yeah, we don't care. Yeah, we are not.
I think you're missing what's happening.
I don't understand why Cersei is so desperate to get Peter Baelish back.
Neither do I. I don't
King's
know.
Landing.
And how she's going to react to the news of Sansa and Bolton. If he tells her, I assume he will.
Yeah.
Does she know?
He hid so far.
Baelish is smarter than I am. So I don't know the games he's playing. I don't. Yeah.
Well, but when he talks
Cersei,
about his game, Baelish talks about his game in this episode, right? Like he's saying, he tells Sansa, like, look, you're strong enough to handle this on your own. I got to go back to King's Landing. Here's the way this is going to play out. Stannis is going to come and beat back.
And we think that is what he legitimately believes.
Yeah.
We think that speech was him. I think so too. He was telling the truth there.
It's like, look, you're engaged. This isn't going to last long. You're going to get safe. Stannis is going to take care of this. You just got to hold out for a little while. And here's a catch.
Does he think that maybe that then once she's the wardeness of the North, which is a nice little turn of phrase, does he think maybe he can then marry her? That's a really long game.
Because there's a kiss.
That is a long game. He plays a long game.
That's it, and then he takes River Run or the Isle or Ire, whatever.
Because he'll go back to King's Landing and he'll tell Cersei, and whoever's in charge at King's Landing, he'll say, hey, she got married to Bolton, but, it should be me marrying her, and I'll, I've always been there for you, and I've done great things in the Eyrie, and I can, take care of the North. And
so that must, I guess.
You were talking about that speech where he said when they've been together, they've been able to overthrow the greatest dynasty of all time. Maybe that's what he's thinking.
So, and that must be his plan, and I think it's the truth because he admitted to the possibility of it not working. And she said, "What happens if I'm wrong?" And then he's like, "Well, then you'll manipulate Rhys. Is that his name? Rhys, not
Bruce.
Ramsay.
Or Ramsay.
You'll manipulate Ramsay, and you'll do the best you can.
Yeah.
With
or without skin.
Right. But also there was that great line, you're the last surviving Stark, except for your 4 siblings.
There are so many Starks.
Right, who are alive right now.
Except that one, keep in mind, though, as far as the succession's concerned, there's one illegitimate one ahead of her. She's the oldest. Even if the other ones are surviving, she's the oldest.
Right, but she's not
in line.
Right, but would it wouldn't the boy get it?
Yeah, I think so.
It would go to the. It would go to Bran. I think.
But they don't know Bran's alive. They don't know Rickon's alive. They don't know Jon Snow's a Snow, not a Stark, and they don't know Arya's alive.
And they don't know that Jon's got an opportunity to re-Stark himself.
By the way, the fact that you can
Bran would be in charge.
Yeah.
Okay, the fact that you can re-Stark is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And so but you know what?
But they are,
we
saw it because Ramsay re-Boltons.
No, I got you. But
he re-bolts.
And by the way, that's exactly why they were killing all of Robert Baratheon's bastards, because they're like, they could re-Baratheon, right? Once he finds out he actually has no Baratheon heirs, he could re-Baratheon one of his bastards.
He could be like, no, I have 17 of them.
That's right.
Just pick out a brunette.
Okay.
They're probably mine.
Right.
And by the way, that guy got onto a tiny little boat from Stannis' Island a long time ago.
We don't know where he is.
Where the hell is he?
Right, he's probably not gone forever.
He was actually the guy who got off his boat and Jorah laid him out with one punch. He finally landed.
That's another sign, very early on. So the first scene we see Sure, and again, you think he's a douche, but he's good people. He punched that guy. He didn't kill him. Didn't let him drown. Dragged him out of the water, and they paid him for his boat.
Did pay him for his boat?
Yeah, not to go there. Come on. You're obstinate. You're obstinate. Jorah's a solid guy.
Yeah, and then he gets tired of hearing it Tyrion and just like smacks him.
Well, if you don't trust Tyrion, Tyrion's got to be one of the 5 most annoying people in the world.
God.
Then later you're going to be like, when they're friends, they're going to be like, you remember when you hit me, you kidnapped me, and punched
Tyrion
me.
expects a punch.
To be punched.
You know what?
Yeah.
I can't
He
wait
figured
for
out
Jorah to
everything
get
so
it, and I'm
fast.
going to be so happy.
No,
I will be extremely happy with it.
what else do we have in this?
The whole thing with Sansa and Littlefinger down in the crypt beneath Winterfell, talking about Lyanna
so
Stark.
positive that somebody was listening to them.
It
just seemed like it, because always when you're down there, you're never, because Baelish was like, she's down there, and somebody's there, and then when they're talking, and he's being so revealing, like in Batman,
Yeah,
like,
first of all, whenever there's a crypt, Varys is listening.
Totally,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter which planet Varys is on, he's listening.
I thought, based on my earlier observation about Theon, I thought Theon was going to be there.
Okay, so, right, Precious is good. So I think actually one of the most relevant things that happened there is when she's like, and then Rhaegar raped my aunt and stuff. And Baelish gave her a look like,
that's what happened.
If you say so, right?
Right.
I got the sense. So I don't know if Rhaegar was already married.
He was. He said
he was
past
already
his
married,
wife.
right? Past his wife, right?
They had kids.
To Elia Martell.
Oh,
right?
right.
They had two children.
Oberyn's sister, who got killed by the mountain.
Yeah.
Right. Sent by the Lannisters and kind of the Baratheons.
In that war.
So and so I always thought that the sister had voluntarily gone with Rhaegar, and Robert was always butthurt about that. And so, but there's yet another, at least 1 to 2 mysteries left to unravel about that.
We don't know exactly what happened. She's deified, and she's Ned's sister, and so. But against Game of Thrones, they'll turn it on his head. Like we're supposed to believe she was good people.
I don't think so.
But if she went on her own,
timing.
Ned's behavior, if she went on her own, would be puzzling. But again, we'd have to go back and watch those Robert-Ned conversations when they're having their cute little picnic.
Very early on.
Very early on to find out, subtext of that or looks, of Robert saying, how could he take her away like that? And maybe Ned was like, right. Right, he took her away like that. Maybe Ned knows too, but still felt,
Oh, I got it.
Well, for what it's worth,
I got it.
You figured out the whole thing?
Hold on, I figured everything out.
$20?
Okay, Jon Snow is not a bastard. He is and he isn't, right?
Oh yeah, we've been through this before.
Right. So I had left it halfway, right? That of course Ned Stark did not have sex with a whore to get him. I'd already figured that out. But Jon Snow is not Ned Stark's kid.
You're right.
It is the aunt and Rhaegar's kid.
That's right.
He's a Targaryen.
He's the daughter of Lyanna and Rhaegar.
And then hence what would he be? Not the brother of Daenerys. He would be the
nephew.
Rhaegar
was Daenerys.
Rhaegar, yes.
Sister.
He's the nephew of Daenerys.
Yes.
He's a Targaryen.
Except, did Robert and Lyanna ever?
No.
They
They were betrothed.
They were betrothed, but they
She's
never hooked up.
promised.
So there's no chance that he's Robert's son.
No, I don't think so. No.
They didn't get
There's no
together.
chance that John is a Baratheon.
Right. There's no way Ned Stark did anything dishonorable.
Right,
He
that's
did
right.
the
That's right,
honorable
right.
thing
I'd forgotten
by making
that
sure he protected his sister's bastard son with Rhaegar.
Right.
Oh, don't say anything. Let's move on because I'm clearly right, and I don't want to know that I'm
We
right.
know which theory he believes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, their silence is so revealing.
Oh, I know. Oh shit, I nailed
No, what
it.
I will say is that has not been definitively solved.
Oh, I got you.
Which doesn't necessarily mean much because
But
in
we
a lot of
remember
storylines
in
were already
season
past the
1,
books.
like the idea of Jon Snow's real lineage was already an issue.
Right.
Yeah,
that
right,
was. And there's a lot of people who believe the theory that you just talked about.
Right.
But that Martin has not said that yet. He's
Okay, I
not
got
written that far yet.
But the shows can
But
go in a
the
different
show-
direction or
right.
can go
So
in
it'll
another.
turn out,
So-
and John will learn. So he'll learn that he's Rhaegar and Lyanna's kid, and that he is the just heir to the Seven Kingdoms, and he'll be like, I took a vow.
Yeah. Oh, no, you know nothing, Jon Targaryen.
Oh, real
The
quick.
thing with Stannis and his daughter.
No, that's what I'm saying. Stannis just suddenly out of nowhere, Father of the Year.
Yeah.
No, I would
almost
like
as
to-
good a parent as Cersei.
I'd also like to take credit for this. Okay, I've always found redeeming qualities in Stannis.
You have, that's true.
And I've always thought that like Stannis is no. He's a complicated guy, and he's always been much nicer to his daughter than the mom has. That's obvious. But I didn't know. Of course, I didn't know that he's the one that gave her the thing that the disease that she wound up having.
He gave it to her? I missed that.
He gave
part.
her the toy.
The doll.
He gave her the
toy.
Oh, he gave her the doll. Right.
And the doll is the what gave her the disease.
But then he saved her. And
But then he
But
saved
can I
her,
devil's
right.
advocate that about this making him a good? So she said, "Are you ashamed of me?" He then went through this whole long thing about how, in the end, you're my daughter, and she started crying. He didn't say that he wasn't ashamed of her at all. He didn't say that he loved her. He just said he has honor.
No.
That doesn't mean he's filled up with love or emotion.
No,
and he had to
said-
be convinced to hug her.
Look, he's
Well-
Stannis. He's not a touchy-feely guy.
Right, but when she says that, there's that look of surprise as he's sitting at his desk and he looks up. And like that's the first time in that scene that he's really looked at her and paid attention.
And that is
There's that
clearly,
look at his face like, what do you mean?
and that's
Yeah,
it,
I
right,
guess.
right. And it's clear when she says
Just
you're
playing
ashamed of me,
devil's
and he's like, contrary to being ashamed of you, you were Princess Shireen of House Baratheon, and you were my daughter.
true.
You don't say that.
Yeah.
But I'm ashamed of you. You know?
Nah, I like
Okay.
Stannis.
No, and then I
You're
was
not a
like,
Snow.
I was, and then I was just yelling at the hug her. Do it. Hug her. Come on.
Oh yeah.
I think she would technically be a storm, I believe. I think that's what the bastards from that era called. Not sure.
Oh yeah. You've gone too far. Okay.
Did you know that the
We
elves
should have
of
ended
the
a couple
Golden
minutes ago. I
Wood-
could have saved you.
Saved you. He could have Stannised you.
I could have saved you from
Can
yourself.
we talk about hobbits for a bit?
All right, good stuff. Episode. Are there just 10? Is that right?
I think it's just 10 again.
So we're really here at the. We're coming up on the halfway point.
Bye bye.